This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome, everyone. This is my name is Risa Shimoda, and we are the River Management Society. And we're here to talk about something that we think is important, understanding perspectives of those who you work with, or those in your environment. And the topic will be applicable to anyone, but we're gearing it towards folks in the community of river management and planning and water trails and watershed work. So let's see. Sorry about that. Now we got it. Now we got it. Like I said, we're going to be looking at topics, items that are pretty common, but may be described, understood, and communicated about differently, depending on where you're from, what your background is, what your perspective is, and what your habits are. So again, I'm Risa Shimoda, and Lilia, you want to wave?
Yep.
And Angie, you want to wave? Angie is my colleague at the River Management Society who coordinates the River Training Center. And Lilia is a National Park Service Rivers Trails Conservation Assistant person who's been helping us develop our River Management Roundtable cohort, whose name we just changed from the State River Program Managers Working Group. So we're going to go through some exercises, a little discussion, and hopefully this is just a casual conversation about topics that are important. So take it away, Lilia.
Yeah, so as Risa said, this is the River Management Society, and this group was started, a year and a half ago or so, with a different name, but we've changed it to be more inclusive. And it's for all these different groups. It's for river managers at all levels, people working on water trails, partnership rivers, outfitters, anybody who is interested in rivers and wants to network with others, learn more, improve their skills, and have a cohort that they can go to if they've got questions, thoughts, etc. So we've been, we meet now twice a month, beginning this month, one on sort of nuts and bolts of river management issues. And then today we are starting up what we began last year and had to take a little hiatus to really think about how we improve our own skills at being a little bit more inclusive and welcoming to all people on our rivers. So we have a thoughtful program, we think, today that is fun and enjoyable, and hopefully you'll learn something and you can think about it for the rest of the day and the week, even the month. So welcome, and tell your friends and others to come join the River Management Roundtable, because all are welcome.
So as we go through, our group is pretty small, so certainly we'll be using the chat box for some of our exercises. But if you have a comment or something, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. But we will be using the chat. You're up, Angie.
So hi, everyone. Again, I'm Angie, the River Training Center coordinator for RMS. And so if we can actually go back one slide, Risa.
Oops,
we're gonna, I'm gonna put a link to a short little interactive quiz that we're gonna ask everyone to go take really quick. And just a little bit of context, this is a quiz that was born out of, all the questions in the quiz were born from a Harvard research study, and it's about different dialects throughout the US. So like, we're gonna give you a couple minutes here to go through. Again, I just put the link in the chat. We also have it down there. You can use the QR code. So we're gonna, take about 2 to 3 minutes to go through this. Give you about another minute or two. Take about 30 more seconds. All right, well, hopefully you've finished up or you're just about finishing up.
I got a different answer than the first time I did it.
Oh,
But
really?
not just hugely, but a little.
Yes, I'd just like to open it up to everyone and, a couple reflection questions, or is there anything that you didn't have a word for, or any words that you might not have heard of, anything that might have surprised you to see on there? And you can feel free to unmute yourself or post in the chat.
So Lindsay says no word for the night before Halloween. Yeah, I could relate to that.
Same.
And for people, does it ring true from the results, what they says? Would you agree with it, that you're from that area?
Yeah, I'm curious how accurate people's results were to where they were, either where they lived, where they were raised. I know when I've taken it, there's a couple words that show up from places where I've never lived, but my mom did. And so I've kind of picked them up, I think, through her.
Or something.
Yeah, I didn't get through the whole questionnaire, but I definitely, maybe because I got stuck on some of the words thinking like, wow, people actually say that. But I definitely saw some words. I lived in North Dakota for a while, saw some words that, I recognize from North Dakota, but I haven't really picked up in my lexicon.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have the problem that I was brought up in one region of the country and have lived in another for 35 years. So I could answer either way.
So I guess as you can kind of see today, one of our themes is really about communication. And, you know, from maybe your results or just even from some of the answers that you saw listed as you were taking the quiz, you can see that we all communicate differently, even within the United States. And we're going to be kind of touching on this a little bit more. But if anyone has any other comments, observations, anything to share out, feel free to do so.
I think the biggest thing in my experience was that I grew up in the Northeast and then went after college, after a little bit of working, I spent a lot of time in the Southeast, and family, friends, all my working group, you know, colleagues were from the mostly from the Southeast. And it took me a while to get past my exposure to Southern accents, which was exclusively Gomer Pyle, Andy Mayberry. You know, that was, you know, Beverly Hillbillies, probably. That just tells you how old I am. But it really threw me when I would work with someone who had the heaviest, thickest drawl and was trying to compete with me or do something that was like really competitive and negative. Like, they were my worst enemy, my toughest enemy, my toughest opponent, whether it was in volunteer work or in work. But the drawl really, really would throw me. And it almost still does, because a lot of people, the people that I'm talking about, would use it to kind of mask what they were intending. They were leveraging what they could see was my perception of that accent to, you know, seem nice, but then they were doing something else. So I wouldn't say I've become wary of it, but I'm aware of it to try to not have it affect, you know, what I think of, because of some biases that I had about them being kind of slow and dumb and, you know, that kind of thing. I have some like wild experiences because I took for granted this, pretty much my prejudice about the accent. Okay, let's go on maybe to another example. This is a familiar item, hopefully. On your dinner table or breakfast table, I have one here. And we would like for you to describe in the chat what you do with this when you're getting ready to eat it. And it sounds really basic, but we'd love for you to do it anyway. So just put in the chat. If you were telling somebody to go, yeah, go ahead. You've never seen one of these before, go ahead and eat this banana. Here's how you do it. Ooh. Sorry, I keep doing that. So we hear a few things here. Bud says peel it. How do you peel it, Bud? You need to give us a little bit more detail. Lindsay says grab the handle part and pull down. Take the right end where it came off the tree and peel it. Emma says I usually cut it open with a knife from the stem end. Nancy says from either the top or the bottom, make a groove and peel it back. Eric says rip the stem off, then peel and pinch off the butt end. Grab the top, Shannon says, break it, pull down the peel. Anybody else?
Pretty consistent.
Angie, have you put your method in? Angie, how do you do it?
Yeah. You know, I used to just break it in half and then I would have half and half, but now I go from one of the ends.
Okay, Bud says, grab the stem piece, pierce with your fingernail, cock back to start the strip. That's how I do it. So one of the reasons why we chose this as an exercise is that in this book, where the story we were reading, a group did this, and there was someone in the group who said, I don't know if you could see me, the only way to do it is to hold it like by the handle. And it was counter to what other people in the room, somebody used the handle method here. But I was holding it like a popsicle or like an ice cream cone, and starting this way, so you're just using the stem. And that was just different. And there's certainly no right or wrong. But even here, we saw a little bit of difference between the folks here. I would like to hear one that I don't understand. What was it? Oh, start with either end, Nancy, either the top or the bottom, make a groove and peel it back. So like along the long ways, or just on one end?
Yeah, you can do it from either the top or the bottom. You sort of stick like your fingernail, or you can use something else like a knife and just make any sort of slit in the peel, and then it'll peel really easily. So I know like my daughter does it from the bottom because she says that's how the monkeys they peel back the bananas. That's the easiest way.
So do monkeys hold the stem part?
I
Or
think
they,
so. Yep.
yeah. Well, they're
Yep.
pretty smart. Well, something like that, this is pretty inconsequential unless you happen to like be really into bananas or something. But something like that is really, it may be a function. How many people would say they eat a banana the way they do because their parents taught them that way, or that's how they've always seen it, as opposed to choosing something once you're an adult and deciding that was better? No, I probably did it the way my mom taught me how to do it when I was little.
Lead habit.
Habit. Oh, depends on the ripeness, Emma said. Okay, let's move on to another example. There we go.
All right, so here we've got our corn, and explain how to open it and use this. You can either put that in the chat or unmute yourself. But how do you consume corn? How do you, I used to like to joke that when I would do a river trip and we would have corn, that you can tell a lot about a person's personality based on how they eat the corn. And that's just a little joking saying, but does anyone have any ways that they prefer or that they do?
I'm going to go to the video.
But when I'm actually eating the corn, I go around each end, kind of short ways around, and then go across typewriter style.
Nice. So kind of like a mix of like a round and a typewriter. And do you go across the corn and then back to the beginning, or do you go over and down and then over and down, or up, or?
I think over and down in a zigzag fashion. But I mean, in my mind, if you eat the ends first, then you save the best kernels in the middle for last.
Nice.
That's great. Anybody else? I have a video I want to show you in case you don't know how to eat corn. We're going to teach you. But any other suggestions?
Bud mentioned hold like a typewriter roller, eat across the corn rows. Well, Risa, do you want to? Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry.
was gonna say, when I was little, my dad, there was a period of time where he had some teeth work done or something like that. So so that he wouldn't feel bad when we cooked the corn, we had to just cook it and then cut it all off the cob with a knife and then eat it, you know. If he wouldn't feel bad, he couldn't eat it directly. Okay, so I'm gonna show you another way that we discovered here. I hope you can hear it.
Hey everybody, this is a unique way of taking the corn off the cob. So instead of biting into it and getting all the corn between your teeth, you then gotta go floss and everything. This is so much easier. You can just pull off the individual kernels of corn. So you start out, you pull down about 2 kernels wide and go all the way down the length of the cob, pull it all off, and then that'll give you a good starting position. So once you get it clean, about 2 or 3 kernels wide, all the way down the length, and then you can just use your thumb to peel over a whole row of corn at a time. It just comes right off. You can see the handfuls coming off. It just pops right off. And this is after it's been cooked. So this is cooked corn. It's already out there, ready to eat. You could bite into it. It gets all between your teeth and it's messy. No corn left on it. Just smooth as can be. Perfect. No corn wasted. Nice big handful of corn.
So there you go. Who would know? Who could imagine that someone would ever bother doing that? But that's just another thing that's kind of interesting, and what another brain has done to solve a problem. So let's go back to let's see, one more example.
Okay, so this one,
Go ahead.
so you can hang this item, you know, either with the loose end coming off from the wall or over the top. And we'd like to know which way you do it when if you have a new roll that you're putting onto the rack, and which way you prefer it. So you can type that in the chat. Yeah. I think we're all over the top. Oh. Yeah. And then I guess the other one, just sort of like the corn, maybe, Angie, maybe you're going to get into this, but have you had discussions with this about people? Like, is it a passionate topic, either how you eat your corn or what you do with the roll with people? Have you had this conversation? And have people had strong opinions about it? So I like Lindsay's. It's just, I was over the top until I had 3 kids and stopped enjoying a mile of unrolled toilet paper. That or a puppy or a kitten too, right?
I know for me, it was my parents, you know, really influencing me. If I didn't put it over the top, then my mom I would hear about it, you know, and now I don't even think about it, but interesting what I learned from my parents.
Okay, I believe this can get to be a big discussion in households, but let's see what folks who either care about this a lot or study it will say. Rolling over versus rolling under. The over type people like being in charge. Some will feel so strongly that they'll flip over, roll it at someone's house, like Angie's mother would do if she did it the other way. Those who are unders tend to be more relaxed, more dependent, more dependable. That's interesting. And for whom relationships with strong foundations is more important. Those who don't have a preference prefer to minimize conflict. That's kind of interesting. And maybe more flexible, I guess. They enjoy placing themselves in new situations. I'll share this. I shared with a couple people before we started. I'm a both person, but I appreciate the under one because I worked at one place where they were doing product testing, and they would have people go home with samples of some new type of toilet paper, and just ask them about their experience with it over time after like a month of using it. And we would go and participate because we would get free toilet paper to bring home with us. But we saw that they shared usage data afterwards, and when you do it under the underway, you use less. And it's for what Lindsay just said, because it's really hard to yank on it and get a whole bunch off it. So for commercial reasons, for commercial bathrooms, it could save them many, many, many dollars per year by installing them the underneath way. So that may be the most valuable piece of information you've heard all day. Really crazy. But here, more than what it is how people react. Sometimes if you know someone who has a preference, they might have a really, really strong preference. So that's just the point of bringing that up. So insights and learnings, from discussions like this, we're talking about topics that are pretty benign, toilet paper and corn and bananas, but hopefully, and the survey that Angie shared about different ways of saying things, different titles or references for entities or physical things in our lives. Hopefully, this is a River Management Society, so hopefully you remember that the application for this is in other places in our work lives and our own personal lives as well. And take away, we have automatic ways of doing things. If we do them often, frequently, or have done them for a long time, they may become habit, and we assume that's how everybody does it. No matter how you say submarine sandwich or grinder or hoagie, you can learn from people who call things differently. And while individual differences exist, cultural generalizations can often be made. Also, there are different ways to reach the same outcome. So those might seem, again, they might seem pretty obvious, but if we apply them to situations in which communication can be difficult, like your boss told you that, the sky is gray, and because the sky is gray, we must do X, Y, Z. There might be an opportunity to think about this, as simplistic as it is, to the communication about something at work. Again, so seeing contrasting ideas can help individuals with their what might be automatic assumptions.
And I'd like to add on that too, Risa, for me, one of the big takeaways of these is that we often assume other people are going to do it the way that we do it, and don't necessarily ask, whatever that thing might be. And so, having like clear expectations and instructions, and not assuming people have the same way of doing things as you can be really helpful in river management, other work. But that's something I found pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, I want to point out an example. Go ahead, Nancy. Oh, sorry. With Shannon pointed out the toothpaste tube thing. I think that probably gets as much conversation in a household as toilet paper rolls. I just talked over somebody. Please go.
It was me. I was just going to say that, these are all, if they don't bug you, it's that sometimes there's serious judgments in these topics, which seem so innocent and innocuous. And it's just a great takeaway to kind of reflect on ourselves to say, oh, if we can take these, you know, how you put the toilet paper on the roll so seriously, does that translate into other things that are more significant in our lives? And can we learn from that? And do we want to have those judgments?
So I'll share one story that, because we'd like to get your thoughts on how this, you know, how this can play into how you communicate with others at work. There's a story that I think is true of a river manager, of a person who became a supervisor in a river, in a office that managed a river, and came not from the background of having worked on rivers, and in fact was afraid of rivers, did not like to go in the water, had a kind of a bad experience. Oops. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. And came in to supervise some veteran river rangers, so on water people, prior to just as they entered a really high water season, super high water season, maybe 10 years ago or something. And the new supervisor decided that it was safer for rangers to go out, and standardly they would go out each day and do a sweep, make sure everybody was okay in a remote location, check the campgrounds, you know, and so forth. And if somebody was doing something they shouldn't be doing, go in and advise them accordingly. This new supervisor thought it would be better and safer for the rangers to go out together in pairs because of the high water. So that sounded okay until she also decided that because she didn't want to bring in any new people and didn't want to pay them like overtime, they would go out half as often. So here it was high water, and instead of going out every day, they were going out every other day. So on the off days, whatever could happen, and they would never know about it. So the two river rangers quit. They moved because it was a judgment on a certain person's part. They didn't feel like they were able to, you know, have a say, and they were worried that they were now in an unsafe environment for their own, you know, and they were kind of mad that this person was telling them to do this procedure that they felt they disagreed with so much. So that's kind of an extreme example of how not listening, not communicating well. She did not listen. She didn't understand what their perspective was. They disagreed with her perspective. So wondered if you, that it might be not quite that extreme a situation, but want to share something where how people kind of habitually or standardly address a certain situation might be overcome if it's uncomfortable or something that you don't agree with, or another way that this might affect you in your work group or your organization.
That's a good example, Risa.
Yeah, my camera's going in and out, but I'm here. Anyone? Well, this is what, you know, we thought this would be a good kind of thought starter. And as we've mentioned, the application for this is it's you know, you can do some of these exercises as an icebreaker at an event, but there's sort of a thought starter for us to think about what we say and the communication that we might be involved in when we're with people that we may not know well and with whom we haven't communicated a lot. And it is not a big deal at all when you're talking about a banana, and it can be a really big deal if you're talking about something work related. or what if you're encountering a difficult situation. I want to share something about these exercises because Angie and I thought they would be pretty helpful. One day, while a colleague of mine was in El Salvador visiting in-laws, her 12-year-old twin brothers-in-law were laughing at her. Nervous, she asked them what was so funny, and they asked her why she was eating a banana upside down. Quite confident that she knew the right way to eat a banana, she challenged them to say they had several more years of experience eating bananas. She had several more years of experience eating bananas than they did. At that, each of them grabbed a banana, turned it upside down, and peeled it from the base. See, they said, if you open it up from this side, you can use the stem as a handle. The top piece won't get all mushy, and you won't have to deal with the strings. This story is a small reminder of two important insights about working across cultures. First, it reminds us that when working across cultures, there are many ways to do the right things, many ways to do the things correctly, and our way is rarely the only good way. Secondly, it shows us how we tend to assume that others do things the same way we do, and highlights the need to make explicit some of your basic expectations when interacting with others across cultures. So we didn't learn about the no strings element, so I'm going to try that next time.
You know, it's interesting, since I helped prep for this, I knew about it, and I had a banana just this morning, and I completely forgot about opening it from the other direction.
Right.
That just speaks to that habit thing, that we just do what we've always done, whether it's, the right thing or not.
The next
Right.
time,
Or
try
what
it
we've
upside
been-
down.
Right. We do what we've been taught, whether, that was the right thing or not, or it could be one of a million different right things to do. I have a little bit of an extreme example I can share, and it's not directly related to North American river management, but many years ago, I spent some time in Peru along the headwaters of the Amazon River on the Ucayali River. And I was staying with a small community out there. And one day, these engineers without borders came in and they flew into the village and they were there to check up on like a water well that was maybe 100 yards back from the river. And I watched the chief of the community go up to his friends and say, hey, I need someone to go talk to these engineers. I'll buy you beer tonight. And if they ask questions, just tell them what you think they want to hear. And then that one guy raised his hand, went around the corner, spent all day with the engineers. The engineers got on their little hydroplane and flew away at the end of the day. And I went up and I asked, I was like, what's the deal? And they were saying, when they came here, they just assumed that we needed clean water, but we have our own way of getting water. The women like to go down to the side of the river to collect water because that's the only time they can get away from the kids or at least the men and have their time to gossip and hang out and all that. And he said, they just never asked us. But when they came, they paid us to cook for them and to do their laundry. And we made more money in those couple weeks than we had in the entire year. And so to me, it was just like a huge example of like, wow, like if only someone had asked them what they would use or what they needed, a lot of time and money and resources could actually be put towards something that's useful for them as opposed to something that, I was down there for several months and I never saw anyone use that water well except for that day. So kind of an extreme example, but one that I'm really passionate about is like, we just need to start like asking people, instead of making assumptions.
Right, thanks. Well, I guess that's our program. And Angie, you want to just talk about some things that are coming up? We appreciate everybody being here.
Yeah, so highly encourage everyone to head over to the River Training Center webpage. We've got keeping it continuously updated with events that we've got coming up. Specifically, we've got a couple fun ones. I guess before I get into that, I think the next slide, I did want to point out to people on the next slide that we also are recording these and they're available on our video channel. To get to the video channel, you can just go to the River Training Center website and you click this big old image here at the top that says River Training Center video channel, and then that's going to bring up a whole page of videos, and you can scroll down to river management conversations. And I think I tried updating that with Roundtable, but we have a character limit in there, and so it was more like Roundtable, so I couldn't get the whole word in there. But that's where these recordings are being housed in case you miss one or you want to go back and check up on one. Also, coming up, I guess, next slide, please, Risa. Our next River Management Roundtable is going to be on June 8th at 3:30 Eastern, same time. That's on the second Tuesday, so we're doing them on the second Tuesday as well as the fourth Tuesday of each month. The ones on second Tuesdays are more towards like on-river topics and discussions. Our fourth Tuesdays, we're focusing more, like we did today, on some skills that might be applicable on or off the river, but just handy to have in your pocket. And then we've also got our River Ranger Rendezvous coming up next week on Thursday, June 3rd. That's going to be an all-day event. You can find out more information at the link below or by going to the RMS page and then going to the events section. We've got a whole day of great speakers lined up, including Dave Cernicek, Stu Pappenfort, Tappan Brown. We're going to have a discussion with the Leave No Trace Outdoor, Leave No Trace. And then we're going to have some prizes as well and some trivia throughout. So highly encourage everyone to go check that out. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I will put my email here in the chat. And then I didn't put it on a slide, but we also have a Wild and Scenic webinar series going on. And we have one more webinar in this series, and that's going to be on June 16th. And we're going to be talking about steps to address user capacities, specifically around wild and scenic rivers, where our June 8th River Management Roundtable is going to be a little bit different.